Welcome to Hudson Valley Radio Theater, a world of infinite imagination and mystery. Tonight, you are tuning into a very special broadcast, Murder Cafe's original production of The Last Mystery of Edgar Allan Poe. Listen in as you meet the legendary author and master of the macabre on what will be his last lecture on the eve of his mysterious death. It is October 6th, 1849, in the city of Baltimore, and we find the notable yet troubled author desperate and destitute. As he was wont to do in his final years, Poe has agreed to read from his poems and tales of the imagination. Listen as you meet the celebrated author you think you know. His intention is to introduce you to his most recent poem, Annabel Lee, and, of course, the one that everybody knows, The Raven. As for a short story, Poe selects the Cask of Amontillado, but all is not what it seems. Characters from his works appear and confront Edgar Allan Poe, or do they? Are they figments of Poe's confused mind seeking revenge, or are they real? That is for you to decide. And now, it is with great pleasure that I introduce you to America's most celebrated man of letters, Edgar Allan Poe.
I didn't realize there'd be so many of you. Well, in my state, one is too many, 1,000 not enough. Unfortunately, I subject myself to these public lectures in exchange for much-needed funds. And as despicable as that is, I certainly hope I don't disappoint you. I should warn you at the outset, I'm not relaxed doing this, but extremely qualified. My mother, who died of consumption when I was very young, was an actress of some reputation in the Boston area. Less successful was my father, an unfortunate thespian who suffered from chronic stage fright, which he tried to remedy by ingesting copious amounts of alcohol. Since he abandoned me shortly after my mother died, I know little else about him. I cannot say if they left a stain on me. That's for you to decide. So here I stand, the creation of Elizabeth Arnold Hopkins and David Poe. And actors they were, and since that is my inheritance, I accept the fact it comes with a need to please. I therefore promise to work hard to entertain you and prove worthy of your investment. Is this water? It's criminal this institution couldn't provide something more vigorous. On second thought, perhaps they have. A number of you appear to be in very high spirits. What an anxious group. I must say, some of you look familiar. Phantoms from past travels, perhaps? Apparitions from tales once told? Demons from the dreams of youth? My word, it's none other than C. Auguste Dupin, the master of detection. I remain baffled by the methods you use to solve the murders in Rue Morgue. Perhaps you would love to entertain us with your powers of analysis, I, for one, remain in awe of your superior intellect and creative imagination. Actually, I take full credit for your talents. In 3 separate stories, I put him in the mind of a criminal. Considering the look of this group, Dupin, you could have a very busy night. Oh, those were inspired tales. And speaking of inspiration, many of my critics have made the assumption my poems and stories are somewhat autobiographical. That is, they are heavily influenced by past events, particularly my personal tragedies. To them I say nonsense. My writings are the result of an overactive imagination coupled with aggressive sensibilities and nothing more. Calamities that have befallen me and the afflictions I have endured have not contributed to my fiction. So please, whatever assumptions you bring here tonight, dismiss them. I will not allow you to confuse the content of my poems and tales with the person you are listening to. Yes, I know, the theater and my obligation to captivate and divert you by reading from my more popular works. Why don't we start with a poem? With me, poetry has not been a purpose, but a passion. And here is one that always draws enthusiasm. This is my most celebrated work, the best written poem in all the land, and in 100 years' time, the joy of every schoolboy. Yes, it is the one about the bird. I wrote this narrative very logically and methodically, and it was first published in the New York Evening Mirror in early 1845. It was my intention to create a piece that would appeal to both critical and popular taste, and yes, I did achieve overwhelming critical success, but the damn thing put me on the path to financial devastation. The main theme of my verse is one of undying devotion. The narrator experiences a wicked conflict between desire to forget and desire to remember. The poor soul seems to get some pleasure from focusing on loss. Again, I have no idea what poisonous well this sprung from. Shall we? Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this, and nothing more." Ah, distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow. Sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken sad uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, that it is, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. I'm sorry, but I can't go on with this. It's too sad. A condition I normally think is the highest manifestation of beauty. Yes, sadness. Beauty, of whatever kind, in its supreme development, invariably excites the sensitive soul to tears. Melancholy is thus the most legitimate of all the poetic tones. The lost love of youth, the death of a beautiful maiden, the most poetical use of death. And do you know why? Because it closely allies itself with beauty. I actually have a better example than the one about the bird. It's a poem titled Annabel Lee, and the last complete verse I've written. Unfortunately, it has yet to be published. Are there any takers? The theme of this ballad concerns an ideal love that began when both participants were hopelessly young. And if any of my fellow literary critics are present, take note. This poem was an exercise in literary construction and nothing more. It utilizes the repetition of words and phrases purposely to create a mournful effect. And pay heed, my innumerable imitators. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee? Who, or should I say, what are you?
It's Annabel Lee, my love. Don't you recognize me? I've never been far from you.
You are a phantasm.
Your eyes deceive you, Edgar, and my eyes see someone who's in desperate need of comfort. Here, allow me to show you how real I am.
No, this is trickery. It appears my benefactors here at the theater have decided to offend me with a vulgar prank.
This is no put on, Edgar. I am who I appear to be. Now come. I've waited patiently in a very cold and dark place much too long. The least you can do is warm me.
Leave me alone. You are nothing more than a figment of my corrupt imagination.
You are far too self-possessed for your own good. The current state of your imagination might very well be corrupted, but when you gave me life, you were virtuous.
Me? Virtuous? Why, I haven't been virtuous since
The
the...
untimely death of
No, don't say it. Do not defile this evening any more than necessary. Me without a proper drink, and you about to utter the name of...
Virginia Clem.
Who among you is responsible for this? You can sit silently smirking in the dark, but you know you're as guilty as the night is long.
Oh, stop badgering your guests, Edgar. They came here to be entertained, and we will not disappoint them. Now, come here and give me a proper greeting. No sense in keeping a woman in suspense.
I will not be subjected to this.
Subjected to what, Edgar? Your surrogate Virginia? That's who I am. It took me an eternity to come to that conclusion. And it doesn't make me love you any less. I just want you to admit it. Now, come on. I'm not asking for much.
I'll admit nothing of the kind, Annabel. Virginia and I were cousins, and we did not share the love that was more than a love.
But you married her.
Yes, I married her because I felt sorry for her, and she was convenient. Our love was more the love of siblings than what we shared.
Thank you for admitting we shared anything. Needless to say, Virginia died as I died, young, with you by her side, in a cottage in New York, not far from the sea.
Coincidence!
No, Edgar, that was no coincidence. Virginia's disease and death had a profound effect on you. It made you depressed, which you tried to remedy with copious amounts of alcohol.
Who are you to analyze me? Why, you're no better than my critics. No, my dear. I will not listen nor succumb to you.
Regardless of what you said earlier, Virginia's struggles and untimely death affected your work. And it's not just my story that was inspired by your misfortunes, Edgar. The Raven, which you couldn't bear to finish, is filled with loneliness brought on by the death of a young maiden.
Don't be naive. I chose not to read because I'm uncomfortable performing my own work, and your tawdry opinions are only making my discomfort worse. Now, before I completely disintegrate, I suggest you go join the rest of your ilk in the hereafter. You are not welcomed here, Annabel.
If what you say is so, why was I created and written about so hauntingly and lovingly?
You represented the ideal love of youth, nothing more.
So why did the winds blow and chill me?
What are you talking about?
You mean you don't know? Here, give that paper to me. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as we all know in the kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee.
But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we.
Yes, yes, that's it. Don't stop now, Edgar. Finish for me, please.
I can't.
And neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea, can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. You see, Edgar, that's it. Our souls cannot be detached, and you said it yourself.
Oh, oh, oh,
Why was I taken from
oh.
you and shut up in a sepulchre by the sea?
You need to read on, Annabel. I stayed by your side even though you weren't real. Yes, you weren't real then, and you're not real now. No, no, there was no surrogate Virginia for me. Your image in my poem was meant to invoke enduring love and nothing more. A love that would leave me inconsolable and clutching your tomb.
Ah, ha! You said me clutching your tomb. Oh, you sweet broken man. I was not only real and loved by you, but was destroyed by you and your beautiful and ugly words. And in spite of that, I still love you and forgive you. Here, let me console you, heal you, and escort you toward uninterrupted peace.
Beautiful and ugly words? Yes, yes, that's it. That's all it ever was, and no one believes me. Poetic exercises and flights of fancy and nothing more. You're no surrogate for anyone. You are a dream, a delusion. So go, return to whence you came, now.
And if I don't, what are you going to do, my love? You have already dispatched me to eternity with your ink
Uh,
bill. I am not a dream, Edgar. I am very much true, and I want to make you well, soothe you, put all of your fears to rest. That's why I came for you,
why? Oh, why, Annabel? Why now?
to love you in a place without sorrow, without pain and remorse.
But where? Where are you taking me, Annabel? Where?
The demons down under the sea can never dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee.
You want me to return with you to your sepulchre by the sea?
Our sepulchre by the sea.
But But what have I done to deserve such a ghastly fate?
Remember the love that was more than a love. I am your maiden, the one who lived with no other thought than to be loved by you. There, Edgar. You are no longer damned for creating me only to snuff me out. I forgive you, my dear. Now come with me,
But, but where?
where the moon never beams and the stars never rise.
And I feel the bright eyes of Annabel Lee.
Yes, darling, that's it. Now come. Our tomb awaits in our kingdom.
Tomb? No, no, you shall not shut me up, not now. Not with my own words. You are not Virginia. You are not Annabel Lee. You are no one. You do not exist, and I will not be seduced into oblivion by a shadow of my demons. Go back to the dark, watery crypt of my mind before I go completely mad.
You are denying yourself the last hope of love.
So be it. Go.
And so I shall. But know this, Edgar. Your time as a mortal grows shorter by the hour, and your end, which is inevitable, will not be as pleasant as what I offered you. And that is a pity. Goodbye, my love.
In visions of the dark night, I have dreamed of joy departed, but a waking dream of life and light hath left me broken-hearted. Did any of you see her? Please tell me I have some semblance of sanity left. Well, either she was real or the product of advancing dementia. I can't say. I just can't say. What I will say is I regret and apologize for the intrusion. Our trespasser has darkened my soul, and further damage to my temperament doesn't seem possible. As indifferent as this might sound, I think it's time to leave dead maidens in their crypts and move on. Let's see what I have with me. Ah, the telltale heart. Too rational. The Mosque of the Red Death. Too relevant. Oh, I think revisiting the Black Cat is what's called for. Are you familiar with it? It's quite good, but I always wished I could write as mysterious as a cat. The Black Cat has all of the ingredients necessary to satisfy any of my enthusiasts. It has a mysterious narrator, mutilation, strangulation, murder, disintegration, and alcohol, and the effects thereof. For the life of me, I don't recall my motives in writing this tale, but I can assure you it will not be a complete waste of your time. To summarize, the Black Cat concerns a decent animal-loving soul who takes to drink and suffers a change for the worse. Imagining his beloved cat as avoiding him, he is at once possessed by the spirit of perversity and hangs the poor creature from a tree. Then his house burns down, and in the ruins he sees the shape of a cat with a noose around its neck. How delightful. Our drunken narrator soon encounters another cat which takes up residence in his rebuilt house. He comes to loathe and fear this cat, and in a pathetic attempt at eradicating the beast, he accidentally strikes his wife with an axe. And what's a man to do with a lifeless spouse? Why, wall her up in the cellar. My word, I just realized the narrator is struggling with a fiend I'll call overindulgence, a demon that takes possession of the soul, a seductive monster, a bottle companion, one that turns a country gentleman into a frenzied beast. No, I no longer have any desire to read this. It's too... What are you listening to? You do think I'm unhinged, don't you? Well, as I've said many times, I became insane with long intervals of horrible sanity. I know how to salvage this gloomy evening. A visit from my jovial jester Fortunato is in order. My dear Fortunato, a well-meaning fool. I have great faith in fools. Self-confidence, my friends call it. This particular rascal is one who paid dearly for his crimes, although his horrific death is one I've come to regret. A Cask of Amontillado is rather brief and concerns a wine-addicted buffoon whose penchant for making insensitive remarks led to his premature entombment, and that original death concocted by me has been duplicated countless times by my unskilled contemporaries. Shall we? The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best I could, but when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge. You, who so well know the nature of my soul, will not suppose, however, that I gave an utterance to a threat. At length I would be avenged. This was a point definitely settled, but the very definitiveness with which it was resolved precluded the idea of risk. I must not only punish, but punish with impunity. A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redresser. It is equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as such to him who has done the wrong. He had a weak point, this Fortunato. Although in other regards he was a man to be respected and even feared. He prided himself on his connoisseurship in wine. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, their enthusiasm is adopted to suit the time and opportunity, to practice imposture upon the British and Austrian millionaires. In painting and gemmery, Fortunato, like his countrymen, was a quack, but in the matter of old wines, he was sincere. In this respect, I did not differ from him materially. I was skillful in the Italian vintages myself and bought largely whenever I could. It was about dusk one evening during the supreme madness of the carnival season that I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth, for he had been drinking much. The man wore motley. He had on a tight-fitting party-striped dress, and his head was surmounted by the conical cap and bells. I was so pleased to meet him that I thought I should never have done wringing his hand. I said to him, "My dear Fortunato, you are luckily met. How remarkably well you are looking today. But I have received a pipe for what passes for Amontillado, and I have my doubts."
Saluti, 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 my amico. I bring you warmth and good humor from my cold vault of eternal slumber.
My dear Fortunato, how well you look. I'm happy beyond words to see you. To what do I owe this most welcome visit?
I sensed your evening needed a bit of fun, Montresor. The shadows approved and freed me, although somewhat temporarily, from the fate you once led me to.
Oh, Fortunato, your death was appalling and has crippled me with the pain of remorse.
Stop! I won't listen to such twaddle. What's done is done, and I refuse to be literature's favorite victim. Here, let us drink to renewed friendship.
But Fortunato, you were covered up alive in a vault, led there by me and my overreaction to your insults.
Bevuta, drink. It's Amontillado, Montresor, and know that the vintage isn't quite as rich as you once promised me, but it will satisfy. Yes, that's it, Bevuta. Drink to the unburied repose around us.
Those words, they seem familiar to me.
A variation on yours, Montresor. Is that my story?
Yes, I was about to read it, and although I welcome your visit, I should get back to it.
Why don't you relax and enjoy your wine, and I'll read. I'm sure your audience would be more entertained if they heard it straight from the harlequin's mouth, so to speak. You don't mind, do you? Good! I think tonight's featured player has earned a rest from his duties. I'm curious to see if this edition has me surviving or meeting my demise in a less horrifying manner. It was now midnight, and my task was drawing to a close. I had completed the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th tier. I had finished a portion of the last and the 11th. There remained but a single stone to be fitted and plastered in. I struggled with its weight. I placed it partially in its destined position. But there now came from out the niche a low laugh that erected the hairs upon my head. It was succeeded by a sad voice, which I had difficulty in recognizing as that of the noble Fortunato. The voice said, "A very good joke indeed, an excellent jest. We'll be having many a rich laugh at the palazzo over our wine." Sorry. "The Amontillado," I said. Yes, Amontillado. But is it not getting late? Will they not be awaiting us at the palazzo? The Lady Fortunato and the rest? Let us be gone! An excellent jest indeed, and many a rich laugh. Ha ha! Over our wine. Hilarious, Montresor. Simply uproarious. Ha ha!
Please stop. My work should not be mocked. It stands alone and has no bearing on you or anyone else, mortal or immortal.
Stop. Montresor, I'm just warming up. Here, let me finish our tale so our guests will have no doubts as to what a wretched rascal you are. I thrust my torch through the remaining aperture and let it fall within. There came forth in return only a jingling of the bells. My heart grew sick. It was the dampness of the catacombs that made it so. I hastened to make an end of my labor. I forced the last stone into its position. I plastered it up. Against the new masonry, I re-erected the old rampart of the bones. For the half of a century, no mortal has disturbed them. May he rest in peace. Ha! Let's drink to your fantasies, undisturbed tombs, and long life.
To whose long life, Fortunato? Mine or yours?
That remains to be seen, Montresor.
Montresor, why do you address me so?
That's who you are. My creator, my abductor, my executioner.
I sense a disturbing change in mood, and it's rather chilling. Am I wrong?
Perhaps it's the Amontillado. It might very well be having an unfavorable effect on your condition.
My condition? What condition?
The dark cloak of guilt that swirls around you.
What do you want, Fortunato? I thought you came in friendship, but maybe I was fooled. Again. I must warn you, I'm not interested in trickery disguised as merrymaking. Now, if you have something to contribute to tonight's program, make it or leave.
But Montresor, I'm here to help you.
I fear you're no more helpful than my last visitor.
Don't be so dismal, Montresor. I've come to save you.
Please stop calling me that. And just what have you come to save me from?
From a pitifully confusing death. Yes, a less than honorable discharge from this realm. A mysterious exit that will mar your legacy.
What? What are you talking about? My death? And if so, what might my end be?
A self-imposed tomb of madness. An empty death served cold. And a legacy as mysterious as any of your vile tales. You assign me to far worse. It's a pity you didn't change the ending, Montresor. If you had, we'd be frolicking at the carnival right now.
You have no right to interfere in my affairs. My work will be appreciated. I am the voice of the raven, the inventor of the detective story, the master of symbolistic poetry, the originator of supernatural literature.
Now gently over the moonlit sea glides our bark along, and as we near some friendly shore, our joy bursts forth in song. Our joy bursts forth in song.
You deceived me. I accepted your friendship, and I was happy to see you in spite of the guilt I harbor over your untimely death.
The death you needlessly and cruelly led me to?
Oh, pass me that bottle.
Wine alone will not remove your pain, although on the earthly side it does prepare one for what awaits. I should know.
What, and what awaits?
The vault, Montresor! The vault!
But what about my guests?
Sorry, but there's only room for one. Now come, brick and mortar and a trowel await. Around we dash the spray, and hail the dawning day. Of home the promised joys still cheer us on our way.
Are you going to seal me up, alive, in a vault of Amontillado?
No, that's been done, and even you wouldn't stand for such repetition. You are going to bury yourself. Now come along before the mortar dries. Now gently over the moonlit sea glides our bark along. It's the only way to ease your mortal soul, your tortured soul. Why linger here and put off what must be done? Trust me, Montresor. If you stay behind with them, your fate will be far, far worse.
No, no, that cannot be true.
Don't be a fool. This is your last chance. The coach is leaving the station. The next one is the last one. And its passengers will make the demons in your head look like child angels.
You betrayed me, Fortunato. I was so pleased to see you. Why, the terrors in my head fell silent, if only for a moment.
They've only begun, Montresor. And don't think I haven't warned you. Arrivederci.
From childhood's hour I have not been as others were. I have not seen as others saw. I could not bring my passions from a common spring. From the same source I have not taken my sorrow. I could not awaken my heart to joy at the same tone. And all I loved alone. Well, look what's become of your hopeful evening. Please know I am embarrassed to have you exposed to so much torment. It's not what I had in mind when our evening began. Perhaps you'll allow me a moment to gather what's left of my wits. I shall return shortly, hopefully to a more entertaining end.
As a forlorn Mr. Poe contemplates his visitors, or the figments of his potent imagination, we can only hope he finds the strength to finish his lecture on a less than gloomy note. Based on what we just heard, that might not happen, but one can hope. There is always hope. And now, the conclusion of Hudson Valley Radio Theater's original broadcast, The Last Mystery of Edgar Allan Poe.
I'd like to commend the person who left this bottle of brandy in my dressing room. How thoughtful. I bet you didn't expect me to return. Actually, I'm not sure I'm all here, but the charade must go on. Don't quote me on that. I do apologize for what has transpired here tonight and for any disappointment in my performance. Now, since our uninvited guests have reminded me my time here, or anywhere, is gravely short, I would like to move on. For my final attempt at engaging you, I have decided to read The Fall of the House of Usher. First, it's my best example of fantasy becoming reality, a condition that speaks for itself. Secondly, in the guise of the narrator, I victimized no one. The protagonist, one Roderick Usher, took flight into the hereafter with his one and only love, his sister Madeline. If you've read my story, you will recall they both perished along with their house upon her sudden return from the dead. And since they appeared to be in bliss when eternity summoned them, I dare say we are safe from any unexpected visitations. The Fall of the House of Usher was first published in 1839, and it includes one of my best poems, The Haunted Palace, which I will omit tonight for the sake of time. You can spare me the collective sigh of relief. All you need to know is the poem is about a king in the olden time, long ago, who was afraid of evil forces that threatened him in his palace. It was inserted to describe a mind haunted by phantoms, a disordered brain, if you will. The mystery opens with the unnamed narrator arriving at the house of his boyhood friend, Roderick Usher, having received a letter from him complaining of an illness and asking for his comfort. During the whole of a dull, dark, and soundless day in the autumn of the year, when the clouds hung oppressively low in the heavens, I had been passing alone on horseback through a singularly dreary tract of country, and at length found myself, as the shades of the evening drew on, within view of the melancholy house of Usher. I know not how it was, but with the first glimpse of the building, a sense of insufferable gloom pervaded my spirit. I say insufferable Don't tell me another uninvited guest has arrived. This time I am prepared. Roderick Usher, in the flesh or something close to it. You look absolutely diseased. Are you ill?
Good evening to you, my friend. Am I ill, you ask? Why, I suffer from the same fears and nervous agitation mentioned in that book, and all those afflictions were bestowed upon me by you.
So you say, so you say. And if that's all you came to say, and I hope it is, be gone. You are not welcome here. I have work to do and money to earn, and I shall not be subjected to another round of accusations by a phantom seeking revenge.
Oh, listeners, take heed. I can't believe you actually want to listen to such melancholy. Let me tell you what my lifelong friend did to me. The once glorious House of Usher consisted of me and my beloved sister, Madeline. The celebrated man of letters who prattles on before you crippled me with fears. The fears were so intense I feared my own fears. In addition to that, our perverse writer rendered my Madeline unconscious. He had her succumb to a mysterious sickness, one that caused her to lose control of her limbs, one that the doctors could not reverse. The poor dear began to waste away while she was still alive. Mr. Poe, my lifelong friend and someone I trusted, almost had me believe my house was unhealthy and the cause of Madeline's decay. That was before he helped me entomb her, while she was still alive.
I refuse to believe that. I won't have it.
You knew she was alive when we entombed her, and I can prove it with your own words.
Ah, my incriminating words.
If I may just have that book. Here it is. Now, you tell me what this sounds like to you. The disease which had thus entombed the lady in the maturity of her youth had left, as usual in all maladies of a strictly cataleptical character, the mockery of a faint blush upon the bosom and the face, and that suspiciously lingering smile upon the lip which is so terrible in death. We replaced and screwed down the lid, and having secured the door of iron, made our way with toil into the scarcely less gloomy apartments of the upper portion of the house. Did you hear that? The mockery of a faint blush upon the bosom and the face? She was alive!
And buried by me and you.
I was crazy with grief and bewitched by your power. And since I wasn't able to release her from the catatonic state she fell into, I thought it best to seal her up when she still had some semblance of her beauty. And now I regret it terribly.
You poor misguided fool! A flood of drink wouldn't cause me to suffer the hallucinations you're experiencing. Madeline wasn't real. Yes, your beloved sibling was nothing more than the physical embodiment of your fears.
Ha! She was more than one of your delusions, as was I. There was an actual Usher house on Boston's Lewis Wharf. It was torn down in 1800, 9 short years prior to your birth in that fair city. And during the demolition,
I won't hear of it!
2 bodies were found intertwined in an area of the cellar. Coincidence? I don't think so, my everlasting friend. Proof, once again, your so-called tales are not only a reflection of your experiences, but is also
Products of a fertile, although somewhat horrific imagination. Unlike my contemporaries, I am no literary thief. Now, for the record, Roderick, Madeline was merely a hallucination for both me and you.
That's not possible. You're lying. I lived with her. We shared. We were...
You were one and the same,
No!
as was your house.
I won't hear it.
You will and you must if I'm going to have any satisfaction this evening. My dear Roderick, consider the special connection you and Madeline shared, one that others would scarcely comprehend.
We were twins, a condition you discovered during Madeline's burial. We could read each other's minds.
Of course. You were two halves of the same person, male, female, mental, physical, worldly, otherworldly, and natural and supernatural.
You're insane.
I take that as a compliment. Now, you could not live while Madeline lay alone in her crypt. It caused you to decay from within, which is why she came back for you.
She was real and very much alive when you helped me entomb her. You must take some responsibility for her premature death.
I take full responsibility, Roderick.
How so?
As your creator, I helped you hasten Madeline's demise, therefore making her burial something of a suicide attempt on your part.
You've completely lost your mind. I won't have it. I knew she was alive as soon as we left her grave. Since I wasn't able to release her from the catatonic state in which you had placed her, I thought it best to seal her up to preserve her beauty. She lived and unfortunately died.
All right. Let's assume for a moment Madeline did exist as in flesh and blood. The logical conclusion would be she came back from the dead to seek revenge on you for burying her alive.
No, I will not accept that.
Believe what you will, Roderick, but either way you are defeated. Now please leave. You're beginning to bore me.
Oh, Madeline, my sweet Madeline, what have I done? What have I done, Madeline? If only I could conjure you and look upon you one last time.
Conjure Madeline? To what purpose, old friend?
So that I can be whole.
Little does our tortured friend know, conjuring is the simplest of my talents.
Madeline. Oh, my Madeline. If this be my fate, so be it. At least tell me you see her, Edgar.
I see the essence of love, a spirit finally whole and prepared for eternity. Go and be happy. Be happy with what you have and leave the rest of us in our struggles to attain it. Goodbye, Roderick. I'm sorry I was so difficult. Men have called me mad, but the question is not yet settled whether madness is or is not the loftiest intelligence. Even though I haven't succumbed and joined the immortals yet, I am well aware our present existence is but a dream. The boundaries which divide life from death are at best shadowy and vague. Who shall say where the one ends and where the other begins? I might have been inflexible with Roderick, but overall I thought I handled that well. The emotional repartee which was quite unexpected, did tire me, however. Now, rather than risk another meddlesome visitation, I shall not read another word tonight. I think I will end this lecture with a few pointed remarks about my critics, those scoundrels whose work is vastly inferior to my... Oh, no. No, not again! What the devil is this? Haven't I dismissed you both? Must I suffer you and you again? You're worse than any gruesome haunting my mind has summoned.
We only need a few brief moments, Montresor. It seems we have some unfinished business. Isn't that right, Annabel?
What unfinished business? What conspiracy has led you to revisit me?
I see you're still imbibing, and not the swill I left behind. He's hopeless, Annabel. Maybe this was a mistake.
No, Fortunato. We must finish this. Edgar, You may have spurned us and shown us how we cannot escape our fate, but we return to show you you cannot escape your own.
Really? And what might my fate be, Miss Annabel Lee?
Follow us, and your greatest mystery begins.
With your death!
Oh, is that all? And who is going to bring on my death in this so-called greatest mystery, whatever that is? You and your mortar and trowel? Or you, Annabel, with your special brand of enticements?
Montresor, you disappoint me. Your imminent demise will be brought on by the nightmares that are carousing inside that great big self-possessed head of yours.
Granted, Fortunato, I am spent. But what is the great mystery you speak of? My work? My legacy? And if so, what of it?
Oh, Edgar, you needn't worry about your legacy. Your works now belong to your readers and all who shall descend from them. You cannot separate you from your works. They are one and the same, two halves that make a whole. You are the mystery, Edgar Allan Poe. Let it begin.
You belong to the ages, Montresor.
You see, my love, the personal torments and obsessions that drove you to write these works of genius will make you immortal. What more could you want?
What about peace? What about love?
You had your chance at both, and you failed, Edgar.
Uh,
Now come with us. You have no choice.
oh,
She's right. We've opened the door to your earthly tomb. Now come, come. You've left behind enough clues. Now leave the mystery of Edgar Allan Poe to your audience.
oh, oh. And the raven never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him had streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore.
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 So concludes our broadcast of Murder Cafe's original production, The Last Mystery of Edgar Allan Poe. Tonight's program featured the Murder Cafe players, Kristen Marquette as Annabel Lee, Andrew Waltman as Fortunato, Dan Anderson as Usher, and Frank Marquette as Edgar Allan Poe. Our sound engineer and editor is Kenny Dreo, and you are listening to me, Jessica Boyd, your host and narrator. The sponsor for this program is the Mysterious Bookshop, the oldest mystery specialist bookstore in America. Located at 58 Warren Street in New York City, the Mysterious Bookshop is currently closed by the state of New York due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but they are taking orders and shipping worldwide and immediately. Specializing in mystery fiction in all its subgenres, including detective, crime, hard-boiled, thrillers, espionage, and suspense, the Mysterious Bookshop is ready to serve you now. Visit mysteriousbookshop.com. Tune in again as Murder Cafe's radio theater brings you a dramatization of one of Edgar Allan Poe's best-known short stories, the very timely Mosque of the Red Death. Thank you for listening to Hudson Valley Radio Theater and for being a part of our world of imagination and mystery.